You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Wednesday, March 20th. Another wacky Wednesday, which means joining me today is Coach Desi. How you doing today, Desi?
I'm doing great. Hump day. It's the best day of the week. We're looking downhill right at Friday. So it's good times. And it's been a wacky week.
It's been a wacky week. I think I would argue that it's the best day of the week because I think Friday and Saturday, would take the cake there. But
the work week. I'll say it. Well,
the work week. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I like the halfway point.
It is a good halfway point. Once you get to Wednesday, it definitely does feel like the weekend is like that much closer. So it's when you start to get a little more optimistic about the week. Let's just say that. But Desi, I'm excited to talk about some of the topics today. As always, never a dull moment with this team. Probably be a shorter episode, but we still got some stuff to talk about, especially as it pertains to Brandon Ayuk. Brandon. He took to Twitter yesterday. Mind you, I don't think he had tweeted since like April of last year, 2023. So he took to Twitter to tweet out or at Coach Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he said, "They saying we twins. What you think?" With the eyeball emojis. This, of course, came after some of the rumors. The first rumor came with some Jags. There's a Jags media member who said the Jags were interested in Ayuk, and then, not too long after, Steelers were reportedly interested in Brandon Ayuk. So Brandon is adding some little fuel to the fire here. It seems like he's trolling everyone a bit. What did you think about this tweet?
I think, yes, they do look alike. But my question is, since they do look alike, does that also mean that Brandon Ayuk, oh my gosh, were you reading my brain? Wait, that's Mike Tomlin. But also...
It's Tomlin, but you couldn't tell for a second because they look so much alike.
Well, because what I was going to say is Good Morning Football, shout out to Good Morning Football, they did a segment last year during the season where they did doppelgangers. And Omar Epps is the doppelganger for Mike Tomlin. So does that mean BA also looks like Omar Epps? I feel like we need a 3-panel side-by-side there.
I think so. I mean, everyone has a few doppelgangers, around, right? And for Brandon Ayuk, 2 of them just happen to be, or one of them for him happens to be in the NFL world. So he isn't wrong. But, of course, it's got some people freaking out about Brandon Ayuk and what this all means. It means nothing. To me,
he's trying to get paid. It means he's trying to get paid.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, like how the whole free agency, or not free agency, but how the whole negotiation extension offseason went for Deebo Samuel, so far it's playing out very similarly for Brandon Ayuk. Like, I don't know if Deebo said, this is what I did at work, do this and that. But so far, like almost to a T, a lot of the same things that we saw are playing out with Ayuk. And so I think we're about maybe a month away before he scrubs his Instagram. I mean, is that about where we're at in the off season of negotiation for Ayuk, right? I'm just saying, if anything like that were to happen, I wouldn't raise an alarm, like I would just be like, all right, it's just another negotiation tactic. But as I always say, negotiations don't happen on social media, like this is all fun and games. But, when it comes down to it, business and business talks is going to happen in the building or with the agent, with Ayuk's agent, and none of this really matters at the end of the day, I don't think. So I'm not worried about it. I don't think anyone watching should be worried about it. I have a feeling there might be some Steelers fans that stumble upon this video, and I'm sorry to say that I don't think any of this means that he's going to get traded to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no, I think it's fun actually. Like let him have this time, like let the man do what he needs to do to earn his paycheck. So, I mean, I still feel like deep down he is going to be a 49er. He's not going anywhere. I just feel like the price tag on him is pretty lucrative, and it's going to be tough for teams to buy into that when there's such a good wide receiver class coming up in the draft that you can get for a much cheaper bargain. But I mean, you never know. Some teams, I mean, there's some that are out there. They're talking about the Chargers. I mean, they just got rid of two of their top guys. And so is it worthwhile to bring somebody like Ayuk in for a, Justin Herbert? I mean, that would be interesting, heartbreaking, but that's something that seems viable. Saints, there's questions about could we get a first round pick plus Rashid Shaheed? I mean, I don't know. There's those talks. I find it interesting that the Jags were, that deal was 17th overall plus Zay Jones. So, and of course we said no to that. That's interesting. So I guess things are a little bit more serious than I realized, because, I've said in a previous episode, absolutely not happening. But I guess also, why not hear the options? You could still be in your gut saying, there's no way. But I guess everybody has a price is the bottom line. So.
Exactly. And we know that the 49ers do set a high price for the guys that they like, that they want to keep. And I don't think there's anything wrong with them listening either, because you just never know. If you do get a crazy offer that you can't say no to, then you wouldn't feel too bad about answering the phone at that point. And so Matt Barrows had his mailbag that came out just earlier today, and he was asked about, the Brandon Ayuk thing. If the 49ers did decide to trade him, would it happen before the draft? He did say, like, if they were to trade him, yes, it would most likely happen before the draft, similar to the Debo situation, where once the draft came and went, it was like, oh, all right, well, I guess he's not getting traded kind of thing. So I think we can kind of put a soft deadline, I guess, on this for the draft. But he also mentioned, similar to the Debo Samuel situation, the 49ers are listening, like they are taking calls. That doesn't mean they're shopping him. That just means they're going to listen. And they're also going to need to be blown away by an offer. And if you look at the last sentence here, he says, quote, the 49ers will listen to offers, but it will take something monumental to let him go, end quote. I just don't see another team giving up a monumental offer for Brandon Ayuk, especially in a draft that is so wide receiver deep. And so, yeah, I think, sure, there's going to be teams that have interest in him. But ultimately, I think the draft is going to come and go, and Brandon Ayuk is still going to be a Niner.
I hope so. I think it's the direction for Brock Purdy as he progresses. I think he's going to need, the talents that come with Brandon Ayuk. There you go. Just pay him. Yeah. You know what? That's the other part I wanted to say. Like, let's close this thing up, because like Debo Samuel, who did not attend all summer, right? There was no training camp. Like, I do not want that for Brandon Ayuk, because I feel like this is such an important summer for him to actually mold and kind of really connect with Brock Purdy, because they didn't get that last year because Brock was injured and coming back. So, like, I would love for them to capitalize on this summer if we're really going to try to climb this mountain again next season. Please.
Yeah, and
please.
That's a really good point, because I don't think there's any way that Brandon Ayuk participates in OTAs, camp, any of that, unless he has this extension, right? So I think that includes not, doing any off-season training with Brock Purdy, unfortunately. But I think that's just where he's at with it. And so we know the 49ers kind of typically do drag this out until training camp. That's kind of the unfortunate thing. The other unfortunate thing with that, too, is by then, a lot of the other wide receivers who are, looking for an extension would get their extension by then. And so you have all these numbers. The market has probably shifted just a little bit higher, too. And now you got to contend with those numbers. We already saw Jerry Jeudy for the Cleveland Browns getting a ridiculous deal yesterday, Tuesday. So all of those deals do impact Brandon Ayuk's eventual extension. And so, yeah, I think this would be one that I don't know if I'd want to wait too long. I mean, it was pretty similar with Debo too, that there were a lot of other AJ Brown got his extension that offseason as well. There were a lot of different guys who were due to get paid. They waited till the end pretty much. And yeah, they paid the price. Debo he's got a pretty hefty contract. So I think the 49ers could do themselves a favor and kind of avoid letting this go to the 11th hour with Ayuk.
100%. Yeah. The guaranteed money on Jerry Jeudy's contract is like,
it hurts. What? It hurts my heart.
I feel like it might even be too late. Like it's already there. Like that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, his agent definitely pinned that one, and we'll be bringing that to the negotiation table, no doubt. But among the other things that Matt Barrows mentioned in his mailbag, he was asked a great question, and a question that maybe I asked myself in my head as I go through mock drafts. I do mock drafts for fun. Like I don't post them online or anything, but at any time I get to like 31 or that second round pick, between those two, I'm always wondering, okay, there's an offensive lineman there. Sometimes it's a guard. Sometimes it's a tackle. Sometimes there's a guard and a tackle available. Which one would the 49ers choose? So that's the question that Matt Barrows got in this mailbag. He said, if the number 1 center is available and the number 6 tackle is available at 31, who would be the pick? I think that's a great question, to put it all, I guess, into perspective of maybe what the 49ers would value a little bit more at this stage. And pretty much what Matt Barrows said, he mentions Graham Barton as a potential for the 49ers. First, he does mention there's a lot. He mentioned there's 5 guys who could potentially be centers for the 49ers, right? Obviously, Jake Brendel is a starter. He also mentions Nick Zakelj, John Feliciano, who we know can, he could be the backup there in a pinch as well. Ben Barch and Corey Luciano. All those guys can play center, right? So seems like based on that, I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess they're pretty much set there. And so that's why, Matt Barrows mentions Graham Barton, who could potentially be there at 31. Definitely would be great value, I think, for the 49ers to get him there. And he did say, quote, if it's a choice between him being Graham Barton and the 6th best tackle, I think the 49ers would go with Barton. So he thinks they would go with the best guard rather than, center than, the tackle, the 6th best tackle. And he goes on to say, quote, he could compete at right guard, maybe even right tackle early in his career, then take over for Brendel at center down the line, end quote. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, it definitely feels like the way the 49ers have been handling free agency so far, a lot of defensive players, I think they're poised to take an offensive player, with their first pick at 31. And I think we're all kind of thinking the same thing, right? It has to be allocated to that offensive line if we had a bet today. But yeah, this is certainly interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan of a tackle in this draft, right? Like we need help on the offensive line. I like this kid. I think Graham Barton is a great fit for multiple reasons. One, he's one of these guys that's interchangeable. He's had his freshman year, he was a center. Last 3 years, he played tackle. And he's done very, very well. I think his mentality is one that's much like the 49er locker room is, he'd be a great fit there. I think that what I see on tape, his effort, he's got a lot of heart, obviously very, very smart, to get into Duke is no, easy task. And I think that's what you need. I also think he's a Swiss Army knife, which those are the types of individuals that get drafted to this team. And I think that it would be a great, I really, low key, this is one of my favorites in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. And, just tooting my own horn here, I've picked him a couple of times in my mock drafts. So, I'm not.
Well done.
Golf clap for me. Thank you. I'm not that bad of a GM after all. But yeah, I think what you say is interesting, especially the part about, maybe like his versatility, Swiss Army knife, right? Because yes, you have more of an immediate need at tackle than at center. I think that much is obvious. But, even Matt mentions like they couldn't have Barton play tackle, if they feel like he's up to it. Definitely something it seems like he could do. So, that in itself adds more value and gives them the flexibility to, go with him rather than, again, sixth best tackle or whoever else is there. But yeah, it's interesting to see. Of course, hopefully we get a little more clarity on who the 49ers might pick, in about a little over a month now. And thank you, Technic Chic. They say I need to be hired by the 49ers for all sorts of positions. I agree. I think, I can handle the day-to-day. I think I could do it. But yeah, it seems like, a lot of 49er fans are a fan of Barton as well. So that would be a slam dunk pick for them. Now, given the draft and all that, there's a lot of pro days happening right now. As always, you guys should check out the draft sheet to see what pro days the 49ers are going to. There were a lot that happened today. And so I've started keeping tabs. For example, the 49ers assistant director of college scouting, Justin Chabot, he was at Ohio State today. They had someone at Nebraska. They had someone at Texas. So they're all over the place, preparing for the draft, scouting and all that. But, Desi, I didn't get a chance to get your opinion on Josh Dobbs, who the 49ers signed last in free agency. We haven't heard any other free agency news since that one. But he had the quill pen and everything, so I assume that one's official. What'd you think about that one?
I'm here for it. I think it's a smart pick. I think he's solid. And we need, again, there's so much complexities to a Kyle Shanahan offense that you need someone who can come in and learn quick. And he is obviously extremely brilliant. So I think he'll understand schemes. I think he'll pick things up. This is not his first team, his second team, his third team. But I like him. I think he's a good guy. And I think there was a lot of cheering for him early on last year as he stepped into his role there. But I'm here for it. Yes, love it. Much better than the other QB options that people were talking about. I'm not saying the names. I'm over it. I don't want to hear about that anymore.
And I was one of those people who did a show about one of those unnamed quarterbacks. But what was funny is the news broke that Josh Dobbs, that Dobbs signed with 49ers as we were live. So it was actually kind of awesome. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think definitely a great signing and definitely better than a lot of different options that were out there. So I'm happy with it. And yeah, I mean, we're at 20 minutes here. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments real quick. But I mean, Desi, any other thoughts on free agency and what other holes do the 49ers need to fill? Maybe in the third tier of free agents and maybe even in the draft.
I will say, I mean, I think we're in a great position for the draft. I think we're in a great position for the draft that like there's not something that, other than a tackle that we have to like. I feel like is a must, right? I think once we get to our picks, we're able to pick the best available. Is my thought. So I'm very comfortable with the decisions that they made. Not that they needed to clear that by me, just so everybody knows. No association. But I did want to kind of go back to the last image you had up. Ben Bart was interesting when they talked about him being a dark horse. That knee injury was like a serious knee injury. He had a knee dislocation. Knee dislocations are, you have instability. So he tore his ACL in that injury. But the big concerns with a knee dislocation is neuro and vascular. So you worry about whether there's any vascular disruption, which could threaten the limb. And the other thing you worry about is stress or laceration of the nerve. And that nerve can cause your foot to not be able to lift all the way up. If you watch Alex Smith, you can see he's got what's called a foot drop. And you can see as he walks, he like really has to lift that foot. That's kind of the injury that you can get with a knee dislocation. So just shout out to Ben for recovering from that. That could have been a career-ending injury. He worked 10 months in therapy to come back after the ACL was repaired. That said, you know, that is something that you'll want to keep an eye on as throughout his career on, you know, being able to survive a long season like the 49ers historically have.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. So the injury happened in 2022. Correct. The 49ers feel like, you know, 2023, a year after this injury, or maybe, you know, a little less than a year after the injury, he was still kind of working his way back from that. So in 2024, is it right for them to be optimistic that he's going to, or that he has turned a corner in that recovery and he can put that behind him? Or will it always kind of be something that will impact his game?
Yeah, be interesting to keep an eye on for sure. And then I do have a question. Steph, we're talking about doppelgangers. Who is your doppelganger?
I don't know if I can answer that question because I feel like nobody looks like me, you know, like I feel like there's other people who would say someone looks like me. And in fact, I have gotten that before. Like I had a friend who was like, this girl at the gym looks like you. Oh my God, I got to take a picture. And then they send me a picture and I'm like, no, they don't. Like, what are you talking about? You know? So I feel like my own perception of myself is maybe different than what other people, you know,
there's
might think.
A tennis player. I would say a tennis. Guys, feel free to chime in. Who does Steph look like? Martinez.
There's a tennis player that looks like me.
I think not currently. I think she retired, but is it Martinez? Was that her name?
Look this up.
Tennis player. What's her name? Martina. Maybe it was Martina. Martina. Maybe it was Martina.
Martina.
She has longer hair. No, it's not her. I'll have to think about this. If someone knows what I'm talking about, there's a tennis player.
Oh, okay. So I looked up Martinez and then I saw someone. Okay, I could, you know, I could kind of see that. So I'm gonna put it up on the screen so everyone sees what I'm looking at here. So is this who you were thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty close. Like, yeah. It's definitely close.
Different nose, but you got the features and the cheeks.
Yeah. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. All right.
Yeah. Ish. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody else. I'll have to go back and do my homework.
I could definitely see it. Okay, yeah. I could definitely see it. You're not wrong. All right, that's a good one. I'll make note of that. What about you? Do you have a doppelganger? Have you been told?
Well, years ago, my friends would tell me I look like, what's the girl who played Angel or Dark Angel or something like that? She now has like families and
it's a series. It was a TV show you said?
Yeah. What? Jessica Alba? I think I was told
Jessica Alba.
And then, but as I got older, people told me I look like the crazy Kardashian, the one that's like all natural. Like, which one's that one? Courtney? I don't know the Kardashian.
Yeah, I think it's Courtney.
Yeah, I don't know about any of that.
Oh my god, I love the description of her because that's probably it's nail on the
Wacky
head.
Wednesday, guys. We can sometimes go real casual here.
Wacky Wednesday. I freaking love it. But Desi, this has been a lot of fun. I mean, to summarize what we were saying at the beginning, like all this talk about a Brandon Ayuk trade is nothing more than just talk, and it's probably very much still unlikely that he is traded. All right, so try to keep a level head. Try to remind yourself, of all the things, and
one more.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about receivers. Did you hear about this show? Receivers, the show Quarterback.
Yes.
Receivers is going to have two of our folks on there. We're going to have George Kittle and Debo.
I mean, those are great options. It's crazy that there's going to be 2 Niners on there because there's only 5 or 6 receivers that are going to be on it, and 2 of them being Niners. So that's pretty entertaining stuff. I mean, Kittle alone can probably fill up quite a bit of camera time, and then I feel like Debo's gotten more comfortable with cameras as he's been around them, and him doing the interviews with Kay Adams every week, and definitely love it. I love his son as well. His son is so cute and literally looks like a mini version of him. It's adorable. So hopefully we get to see a little bit of Debo Jr. In this series as well. I'm excited about it. Can't wait.
All right. Well, thanks, Steph. It's been an awesome Wacky Wednesday, and we'll look forward to seeing what's happens the rest of this week.
And I am totally okay if nothing happens. I think the majority of work or free agency work is done for the 49ers. Now it's just, I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe one more signing before the draft, and then they'll probably have a couple more after the draft, just some value guys. But I'm okay with it being slow going from now on. So Desi, thank you so much for joining me on another Wacky Wednesday. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, because there will be plenty more wacky episodes just like this one. But for now, have a good rest of your Wacky Wednesday, folks. Peace.